beginning stream. Soldier Boy up in the soul. Want me crank and watch me roll. Want me crank that Soldier Boy and Superman? Them oh no, I'm kidding. Wait, what was that? I think shoot, hold on. Mistakes have been made. Okay. So obviously this is me testing this stuff here. If the screen's white, it's because I'm swapping in between what I'm capturing here and OBS. Hi you guys. So you guys can hear me, right? I can see the chat on OBS. Is the screen white for you guys, and can you hear me? Gonna wait and see if I can get a response. It's gonna be interactive. I need you guys. I can actually probably just listen to myself. It's gonna be Streamception. Hold on. And see if I can be heard here. Oh jeez. Oh no, let's go. Yeah, we can hear white screen, and yes we can. Yes, it's white. All right, thank you guys. So all right. So that means it becomes white when I click off from what I'm trying to capture. There we go. So I am live, and you guys can hear me. That's some good stuff. So basically, while we're here, so for one, I got this new microphone, and I wanted to test it out. I was gonna do some more screencasting videos where I basically use more like visual aids and my voice to make videos rather than sitting down. Definitely going to continue those sit-down talking videos. I bought some new clothes and gonna try to test them out and see how that looks. But for now, this is kind of a test. I had some thoughts on this. I started watching Hunter's video, and it just was disheartening, I guess, to say the least, because I used to be a huge fan of Hunter Avalon in the past, and to watch how he has fallen has broken my heart quite a bit. Do I watch Destiny? Sometimes. I watch Destiny. Destiny's pretty cool. Responding to you, Benny. I don't know who Ray Liotta is. Sorry about that. Can hear in white. So, let me see. Does the screen remain white? Because whenever I click on to the capture screen, OBS shows it on my computer. But then if I click away, it goes back to being white. So, let me see. I might need to make a new source. And while I do that, the thing that it kind of bothered me, like, I mean, we're going to be going through the video together. Hopefully if I can get this to work. But let me see. So it's flashing. Okay. Henry from Goodfellas? Ah, got you. Have I heard of Mr. Girl? Yes, I have heard of Mr. Girl. I have heard he's quite the character. I have an odd respect for that man. I don't respect his opinions, but I do respect the strength of character, I guess you could say, he has for having them. I guess, like, I if that's a way to say that. He's got he's definitely he's an interesting character, Mr. Girl. I just don't agree with him on much of anything. Yeah, Hunter did change because of Osh. What do I think about the cops? I mean, is there like a specific, like, answer, I guess. I mean, specific, I guess, opinion on the police you're asking for, Mongoose Man. Um, I have general thoughts on the police, but I mean, like, is there anything like particularly you were thinking of? It's flashing because Zerus is clicking back and forth. Yeah, I am clicking back and forth. I don't know. It's. I'm trying to find a way to where I can see the chat and operate the screen that I'm looking at, that I'm capturing. So this way I don't have to click back and forth. Or maybe, yo, you love Mr. Girl? I'm curious to know why the cops waiting outside the school. The ones that got let him in. I don't have enough information on that one. I've been hearing conflicting details. That on one hand I heard that the Texas shooter fought them in a firefight and won. On the other hand, I heard they let him in. So, my opinion on gun rights. Well, my opinion on a right in general is that it's something inalienable and the government can't take it away from us. So, it's my right to be able to own arms. That would also include, I would imagine, swords, nunchaku. Even though it's actually illegal to have nunchucks. I need to raise my audio slightly higher. Let me see if I can. That muted me. uh, like I said, this is an interactive stream. I need you guys to help me. Mixer. Now, I also have a pop filter on the microphone. For those of you who don't know what a pop filter is, there are specific consonants like P and B that force your mouth to blow out air whenever you say them. So pop filter is to try to catch the plosive air that gets hit. Just for those of y'all who don't know. Not saying you guys are unintelligent, but not everyone knows everything, you know what I mean? So the pop filter covers up the entire microphone, and I know for a fact that it does reduce the quality of how the microphone sounds. So I can remove the pop filter, but then you get all the plosives, and I actually don't even know how it sounds because not every pop filter is made equal. I think you can say that about anything, but some of them allows can block out the plosives pretty well. Others not so much, but they kind of always kind of reduce the quality of the microphone. Plosives or stops? No, I'm referring to plosives. I'm not referring to stops. Yes, my man, it's white because I clicked away from what I'm trying to capture. There we go, and then it pops back up. So maybe what I should do is have the chat on a different device. And that way I can respond to you guys on that device rather than trying to respond to you guys on just the laptop. So the question is now, can you guys see what I'm capturing? Oh, darn. How's my day going? My day is going by just fine, actually, I would say. Can't complain. Well, I could, but no one's listening. See if you guys get that reference. Actually, I probably should have said the whole thing. Life is good, I can't complain. I guess I could, but no one's listening. Your image overwhelms my brain. You guys get that reference? Do you guys get the reference? Let me see. Salvador Cell. I don't know. Like, can you really be an incel in high school though? Like, are you supposed to be even scoring at that young of an age? Honestly, my days as a substitute teacher has blinded me, not color blinded me, blinded me, because I don't think that we as adolescents should have ever been attempting to try to have relationships. I'm gonna be honest. I guess as a much older adult now, I'm thinking about it. I'm like, I don't know if we should have been trying to date in high school. Yeah, exactly. Pick up your pants patrol. Yeah, it is amazing to me that people are still more upset with firearms than they are upset with the way we treat each other. But let's see. Okay, so I'm gonna play Hunter's video, and then you guys got to tell me if you can hear it.
Got pretty emotional this morning when
I don't
researching
even hear
for
it.
the.
Oh wait, hold on. I think I know why I don't hear it. I don't hear it on my computer because I changed the input. So I need to change that. Hold on.
This subject just because it is really heartbreaking.
Okay, now I can hear it. Can hear it though. I gotta raise it. Okay, give me 1 second. I hear it and you're heavy breathing. Yeah, the microphone's really close to me. I have to turn away from the microphone to breathe air. That way I can stay alive. All right. All right, thanks guys. So, let's we're going to get the preamble going on, and then I'll pause and interject. And we'll just take it from there. We'll see how it goes. I'm laughing at the I'm laughing at MGTOW by Logic. Where was the call to ban airplanes after 9/11? I mean, there's the logical answer to that question. I get the sentiment. The logical thing is we get far more productive use from continuing to use airplanes than we would without them. That's why no one would say that. America, you guys also got to bear in mind, America's a pretty unique place. I'm sure you guys know that. Obviously, just through like history class and stuff like that. But you got to recognize, like, having a constitution and rights is something most other countries aren't like privy to and understanding. So like, we have this conversation on guns and banning them because, again, the way our Constitution and the Bill of Rights was written and the amendments go is there's just certain things that the government just can't do. And that is take away our ability to arm ourselves. That's one of them. So that's why a lot of people always kind of lead to this conversation, which is a goofy conversation to me, because I think it'd be far more reasonable to kind of discuss creating a society that disincentivizes this type of behavior and incentivizes more cohesion. Not necessarily like China would do, but definitely more cohesion to where an individual would not want to go to a school and shoot a bunch of children. So let us start.
I think the first thing I'll do is I will show you just the pictures of the people who died. I mean, you have like little children, little kids. I mean, we're talking about like 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds. Like, Jesus fuck, dude. There's no mass shooting that is good or that would be preferred. But like, killing adults is still horrific. It just adds so much more weight to this when you realize that these small innocent kids were gunned down by a fucking crazy guy who didn't even go to their school.
I'm gonna be that guy, because I have no choice but to be that guy. But it is interesting to me that the lives of children become hypercritical and sad when they're dead, but like abortion isn't held in the same regard. Like it is really goofy to me, and maybe I shouldn't be saying this. Maybe I guess the fetuses shouldn't be considered the same as a 10-year-old, but I don't. To me, it's kind of all the same, and it looks like kind of talking from both sides of your mouth whenever I hear liberals do this dance about like gun control, because this is obviously what it's going to lead to, and I don't. Hopefully, it's not like a shock or surprise to people. That's what this is going to lead to. But it is just really strange to me that the whole shebang of innocent beings, I guess, because God forbid we call fetuses humans, I guess, or children, I guess, the whole shebang should probably be wrong from start to finish. And the reason why I have to point this out is because this is absolutely like emotional arguing from like Hunter's point of view. Like the point of highlighting the fact that there are children is to say that this is deeper, that this is worse. And honestly it is. I don't really technically disagree, but it does seem, again, like kind of like talking from both sides of your mouth when we're also having a concurrent conversation about quote unquote abortion rights that women have. And it's like, I mean, we're going to talk about it's wrong for the innocent to be gunned down in schools. Absolutely. I mean, wouldn't it also be wrong for the innocent to be pulled from their mother's wombs as well? It's like, why do we highlight the innocence of these children now when it's something that we want, but we don't highlight the innocence of a fetus when it's something we don't want? As in, like, we don't want like abortion rights to be taken away. I think I may have phrased that sentence incorrectly, but hopefully you guys get my point. Um, I don't technically disagree with Hunter here as far as it is awful that these children died. I typically don't even talk about death on my channel because I don't like talking about these type of subject matters. But again, I kind of wanted to highlight that because we know that this is going to lead to a gun control rant or an anti-gun rant, I feel like I have to kind of highlight that the reason why he's highlighting that it's children is to bring us to the logical conclusion that individuals shouldn't be able to have access to these type of weapons.
I read one story about a 10-year-old girl who was shot and killed while just trying to call 911, which is just super terrifying and tragic in and of itself. Trying to call for help, and the shooter killed her in the process of her trying to call 911.
He said, okay, but those kids have a level of personhood that can be measured. We can't do that for a fetus. Well, we can't do that for a fetus in principle because it's a fetus. A fetus can't be anything but a fetus at that point in time because it has to develop. It just is. It's just a fact of reality. I don't think personhood is important when we're discussing the innocence of a human. It's still a human. It doesn't take away from the fact that it's a human. I don't think you could logically argue otherwise. I guess to me it's kind of, maybe I shouldn't say it's all the same, but it's just kind of always, it's just kind of, the whole thing's awful. I don't know. I don't think the innocent should suffer because we as adults can't get our shit together and protect them. To be honest with you. Would you respect liberals more if they didn't care if children died? No. I mean, liberalism is more a personality type than a political affiliation for me, so maybe I'm the wrong person to ask that question. I heard the shooter didn't have no father like most mass shooters. This is a family problem. Yeah, I mean, I was gonna get there. Absolutely. Because part of the problem that I'm always having is, or I guess lately I can say, is a lot of people that do these shootings have a lack of interest in societies like functioning, and that also means like for their family being able to kind of exist as well. Like they don't have anything that kind of tethers them to the world around them. You know, they're pretty lonely people. They feel socially ostracized. They don't really have a lot of good friends. They don't usually have a father or a mother around, or if they usually have a single mother. And so it's like, what, excuse me. I think one thing, well, I'll get to it. I'll get to it when it becomes relevant. I'm not going to go through all of this, by the way. I'm just going to go through a good enough chunk of it.
We also have teachers who passed away as well. I think there were 2 teachers killed. Both of them died heroically trying to protect their class and their students. So just take a look at these faces, and these are the children, these innocent kids who had their lives brutally stolen from them because some sicko scumfuck subhuman was essentially able to get access to guns. Very emotional.
Yeah, see, and so if you're listening, Hunter's conclusion is these children died because the sicko was able to get guns. And while that is logically and technically true, a mentally deranged individual was able to purchase guns, is it really the problem that he bought the gun, or the fact that he wanted to kill people at all? Like if we get to the root or the meat of the matter, if it wasn't an Armalite 15 that he used, and he could have used a pistol, if not a pistol, he could have 3D printed a couple of guns. If not 3D printed a couple of guns, which may have taken considerable amount more time and resources, but he could have grabbed a knife and then ran into one classroom and just jabbed all the kids repeatedly and ran out. There's if someone he could have stolen a car and drove it into a classroom at the side of the school. There's numerous different ways. The problem is guns kind of make this easier because that's what they're supposed to do. I mean, they are weapons designed to kill, but it doesn't change the fact that this was a person that was mentally deranged. Like this person wasn't like spawned from the ether. There are lots of different things that led up to his creation. And I don't know if the grand solution is make gun harder to get for crazy people. Because ultimately what you really do is you make guns harder to get for people that aren't crazy. You just make them harder to get in general. But it wouldn't change the fact that there are crazy people that want to kill individuals and that have no incentive to keep their society going.
Specifically, just reading about the 10-year-old girl and the teachers who had kids of their own and who died just trying to save their students. It's really emotional, really heavy shit. And I'm not going to pretend that it's anything other than. It's really horrifying. So first, let's go over a little bit of information about what happened.
Yeah. Imagine wanting only police and the government to own weaponry. Yeah. That's probably specifically why the Second Amendment was added to the Constitution. I'm sure the founding fathers read over the Constitution and said, well, hold on. In fact, I mean, the entire structure, for better or for worse, of separating the government into three different powers, the executive branch, judicial branch, and darn it, man, I'm out of high school. I've been out of high school for too long. I don't remember. The whole point of separating it into three different distinct areas to kind of check and balance themselves is because they recognize governments could be corrupted. That's why there was a whole, revolution, right? So for me, it's we're 200 years later. It's guys, you got to understand, humans are fallible. The reason why we have this right is to make sure that we can defend ourselves from that tyranny in general. Again, what you would want to create is not a world where we don't have the ability to obtain arms and weaponry, but create a world where we would only want to use those arms and weaponry to protect the innocent or protect people that need it. Yeah, I mean, sure, that might sound cartoonish, but you have to imagine if the people that shot and killed the Texas shooter didn't shoot and kill him, it would have killed more people. Again, you put a gun in the hands of someone that wants to do what's right, he's going to put down an evil person. Put it in the hands of someone that wants to do something wrong, they're going to kill children. It's and again, like I said, it's cartoonish as it is. It's about good and evil. It's not about removing guns and weapons. He could have bought a sword from the mall and went and chopped, and slit people's throats. I mean, you can literally. I remember a couple years ago there was there's a shop in the mall that had a bunch of different swords and stuff for decorations. That's not the point, at least I feel is kind of my thoughts on it. For now, at least.
Why it happened, and then what the solution is to these things. So, hold on. The first thing to note is that the shooter, named Salvador.
What's sad is that the vast majority of mass killings have been raised by single mothers. Well, that sentence is incorrect. It would be mass shooters, but I'm not gonna pick on you for your bad grammar. No, because I already did. No, I'm kidding. No, you're right, and I think the reason why, I think there's two reasons why we can't have that discussion, and by can't I put in quotations, and that's because we've kind of spent a whole culture of elevating single motherhood and making them seem like they're strong and powerful, and there isn't anything wrong with that. I guess I wouldn't say. You can't say occupation. It's not technically. It's not an occupation, but there's nothing wrong with that position. I guess you could say. In life, it's okay to be a single mother. You know, you're strong, and so it's been so deified, I guess, for lack of a better word, that no one can really sit down and have a good conversation about how not having a good father in your life damages these kids psychologically. You know, I've made numerous videos where I talk about this. And we'll probably have to continue to talk about how having a good man in your life who loves you is very, very powerful. It's very powerful to have someone in your life who is, and I think there's lots of elements to having a father around that kind of goes beyond just discipline. You know, there's also just the role model of being a powerful man that cares, because that's what I got from my dad, right? You know, and it wasn't always sunshines and rainbows, but if there's one thing I learned about being a man from my dad is the love we have and how we protect each other, right? You know, my dad used to kill snakes in our house to make sure we were safe, right? Like I saw that. I saw that, you know, literally, you know, so you get a lot of great things from your father, and not having a good father in your life, or not having a father at all, there's no model of what it means to be a man in your life directly. You kind of have to get that from some other source. And sometimes those other sources are really, really poor, or really, really terrible. Or sometimes you don't get it at all and you just kind of spiral and flip out like our individual here. So it's really tough to have these conversations about like how important it is to have fathers in your lives and how important it is to have those strong role models. And we spent so much time talking about how great it is to be a single mother and how strong they are. We're not stopping and recognizing that not having your father it's not helpful. Maybe it maketh a strong woman, but it's not about her. And I think a lot of people miss that. Like at the conversation about single motherhood, it's maybe she is strong for being able to handle the stresses of having a job or having two jobs and raising a child. But it's not about her. Just because she's able to get through it doesn't mean her children don't suffer in that area, which we see constantly over and over again. I mean, you may be able to have one kid who's able to like grow up and not have his dad, and it just never bothers them. I mean, that might happen, but typically that is absolutely not the case. Go. I'm reading some of these comments here because it's tough. Let's keep watching.
Ramos, who thankfully was killed in the middle of carrying out his shooting, legally purchased his weapons. That's the first thing that you need to know. He legally made this purchase. He was able to buy this weapon on his 18-year-old birthday. 18 years old, this dude was able to walk into whatever local fucking gun shop and legally purchase a weapon.
Yes, capitalism reigns supreme. This is part of the reason why I kind of I thought about making this live stream. Was the statement is technically true, but it says nothing. It's an adult male was able to walk into a store and use money to purchase a firearm. Yes, that happened. Your point? Because I would imagine that what he's trying to imply is that an adult should not be able to walk into a gun store and purchase firearms. And that might not be charitable of me to conclude that, but I mean, that is technically indeed what happened. I mean, like, what are you trying to say here, Hunter?
Now, part of the problem was that he didn't have a criminal record. So the first problem you have there is, would a background check have prevented this? I don't know.
Well, no, it wouldn't have. You literally just said that he didn't have a criminal record. So background checks are definitely important. I don't think you would take them away, but I think again the solution I don't think is more bureaucracy. I don't think this is a problem that gets solved with bureaucracy. And I don't think a lot of people are really comfortable with that. I don't think people are really comfortable with the idea that there are societal problems that don't get solved with like legislation or don't get solved with just different rules or more regulations. There's some stuff that we as people have to do better that is just beyond the government. That's just kind of it's just beyond the government to legislate that we all work together and make the world a better, safer place. It's not really the government's function. So I mean, yeah, you can again, you could definitely raise the prices of guns. I mean, you could like economically, you could be like if you or raise the cost of bullets. Go Chris Rock, we got bullet control. Cost $999 for a single bullet. So you really gotta take out a little petty loan if you want to shoot somebody. I mean, I guess you could do that. And sure, I mean, there'd be less people being shot. I mean, I think logically we would conclude that if there are less drivers on the road, there would be less car accidents. Yes, less of the thing that can cause negative ramifications would cause less negative results. But that doesn't say anything. Well, it doesn't say anything that we wouldn't already know. If less people swam in the ocean, we'd have less people that drown. Well done, smarty pants. But does that change the fact that there might be someone who would lie to a friend of theirs who's mentally crazy, takes them to the beach and drowns them? No, it doesn't. So again, if we're trying to figure out what brings someone to this mindset to where they would want to go out and kill individuals, making it harder to kill people will certainly like protect them. I mean, from the guns specifically, but it wouldn't protect an individual from a murderer. They could still just buy any other weapon and just go out and do it anyway.
But this is why, if we're going to do background checks, I think you also need to do mental health evaluations as well.
Like, what are we? I mean, but what? See, here's the thing. Are we gonna have a bunch of psychologists at the cash register of every gun store, where they sit down and take each individual person that walks up, and they have to do a psych eval right then and there? Like, how exactly are you going to to implement mental checkups on every single gun owner? I don't. That doesn't really sound very feasible to me. I don't know what which isn't, again, it isn't to say that it's not important to know the psychological health of an individual that's trying to get a firearm. But how is any bureaucratic system going to implement like a psychologist or like a mental health check on every single customer that purchases a firearm? You'd have to train individuals to do that. So there's a lot of money in just the education of training a person to be able to know that. And then you'd have to hire them at every single gun store. And then I don't even know if there's enough time in the day to psychologically evaluate every single customer that goes into a store to purchase a gun. Which maybe I'm thinking too logically about this. Maybe I'm thinking too deep about it. But I don't think the solution to this is more bureaucracy. I don't know if we're supposed to just place more mental health checks in front of purchasing firearms, because I don't even know how you would implement it. Who makes the test? Who makes the rules? Excuse me. Who sets up the standards? How do we know when? And then the problem is this kind of ignores the day to day. Someone could have had a psychological evaluation a year ago when they purchased the gun and they were fine. And then the next day, their life just starts going down. Everything's going up. They bought an AR-15. They're going to go practice with their dad. Their dad dies in a car accident 2 days later. Their mom goes crazy. They lose numerous different family members. They lose their job. Things just get harder and harder. And then, I mean, how do we stop the grind of life to someone that would get them to that point. And even like, so I don't know. To me, it's like I don't know how you would implement it. Is my concern. I don't know how that would work. Yeah, I'm gonna get that out of here. Goodbye. Actually, I'm gonna read some of these responses.
I think you need to do mental health evaluations as well. There needs to be a wait time on these weapons, and it just cannot be as easy as it is to get a weapon as it is right now. So,
all right, Senico, I believe that's how you pronounce it, Senico. Background check is a thing. How did this 18-year-old afford two 5,000 AR-15s and a $70,000 truck? Also, why were parents held at gunpoint instead of going in to save the kids since the police can't do that job? I don't know. Good questions. I mean, because he could have stolen them. I don't know. I legitimately don't know. I don't know. That's definitely question of the day. No idea.
The 18-year-old gunman who opened fire at a Texas elementary school, killing at least 19 kids and 2 adults, bought 2 assault rifles just after his birthday this month and appeared to send some ominous Instagram messages hour before the massacre. Salvador Ramos was described as quiet by numerous people who knew him. A young woman who worked with him at Wendy's until March detected an aggressive streak. Several former friends said he had stopped showing up at school and was not going to graduate with the senior class this year.
So, I mean, Taylor's old as time. I'm sorry to say. I mean, he's the crazy kid who sat in the back of the classroom most people didn't hang out with. This is a pretty typical profile. And I think the problem here is the fact that because this profile is so typical, why aren't we doing more to help individuals like this when we see them? I don't know. Again, like if the profile for these kids is this consistent, no father, no friends, quiet, doesn't interact with anyone, like they have no incentive to keep this society going. There's nothing that tethers them to this society. So if they want to watch it all burn, what's going to stop them? Nothing. Except somebody that, I guess someone with a good person with a gun. Since that seems to always be what happens. Well, I guess I hesitate to call the police good people with guns, but I digress.
There were definitely some serious warning signs about this individual.
No.
And the fact that he was given not 1 but 2 assault rifles at...
Well, yeah, the cashier didn't know that he was a quiet kid that sat in the back of the classroom that had no friends. The cashier at the gun store could not have access to that information. I guess the psych evaluator who sits next to him would have taken maybe 15 to 30 minutes to have him answer a questionnaire and then have him like book a session and then have him sit down and talk about it. If that's what you're asking, we implement, my friend. But yeah, how was he supposed to have this information, Hunter? I'm not surprised, because technically speaking, I mean, I could be that guy, and say that honestly, it is not the cashier's responsibility at a gun store to then psychologically evaluate every person that goes in to purchase a firearm. It's not his job. The person that wants to purchase the firearm probably shouldn't want to go out and murder a bunch of people. So what incentivized this evil person to get to this point where he would want to do that? Social ostracization is a huge factor. Not including people, making them feel othered, definitely has always been a recipe for disaster. That's never a good thing. Why was he like that to begin with? I mean, it could have been some mental health issues he was born with. I don't know. Maybe no one could have done nothing to stop him from this rampage. I don't know. But again, I don't see how the jump to stop this is we stop getting people shouldn't be able to purchase firearms anymore, or it should be harder for people to purchase firearms in a method that is implemented that is just nigh impossible to even be able to regulate to begin with. I'm gonna be honest with you.
At the age of 18,
I guess you could change how old someone has to be to purchase a firearm, but I mean, I guess you would be changing. I mean, what it means to be an adult, I guess. So, I mean, 18 is real old on one side of your mouth, and then it's really young on the other side of your mouth, you know. But I mean, to be fair, again, I mean, like I'm 26. I guess relatively 18 is pretty young, even though I'm only not even a decade removed from it. So I don't know. Maybe I'm talking on both sides of my mouth there. Also, the only okay, you've made a couple of comments. I'm gonna read your comments. Sandiko. Also, both shooters in the last month were in the same Discord and talking to a guy named Ahmed. Oh, I didn't know that. Semi-auto rifles, not assault. Look up the word assault. Damn, leftists need to unlearn gamer knowledge of firearms. True. I mean, again, it honestly, it really doesn't matter if he had a Colt 40, Colt 45, or a Magnum, 357. What difference would it, or if he had a shotgun? What real difference would it have made? I guess the rate of which he could fire, sure, but the fact is, here's the thing. I gotta find a good way to put this in the words and to qualify this statement, because more people being dead is bad, but any person being gunned down is still bad. So it's not technically all the same, because the I guess area of effect or sadness is wider by the sheer numbers, which I guess is just a real roundabout way of saying there are more sad people now because more people were killed. But if 2 children were shot and killed, it would still be sad. Not equally sad by the net of the amount of people affected, but it's still sad. The point that I'm ultimately trying to make is that if someone came in with a little miniature gun, like a pistol, I guess you can say, which pistol actually has, actually a lot of guns can fit the definition of a pistol, but if someone walks in with a pistol and they shoot 2 kids in cold blood, it's not the rate of fire that's dangerous. It's the fact that someone walked into a school and was able to shoot 2 kids. So maybe you could say we may need more. I would say, honestly, and I find it particularly interesting that this isn't really concerned, or this isn't talked about, but why is not, there should be more security in different areas to prevent this from beginning, right? Because if we have more security, maybe more armed security, I mean, I guess you'd have to, open up an industry of training people. The police force. What was that? No, but seriously, it's like having security is probably a much more reasonable response to this stuff here than, no one should be getting firearms, or we should restrict firearm access. Having people that are patrolling these different areas to make sure that they are safe, especially children, I would say. I'm not opposed to children having more security guards in the environment and more police officers around them to try to keep them safe. I don't see anyone. I mean, there might be some people in the comment section here that would disagree with having more police officers around an area or having more, armed security in an area. But I wouldn't if I were a parent, if my children were in an environment where I knew that there were people actively trying to protect them and patrolling the area, I don't think I would be scared. I think I'd feel the opposite of being scared if I knew that there was someone walking around making sure the premises are safe so people like this don't get inside. Which again, I guess for me is a much more reasonable solution than we have trained professionals that listen to every single person that goes inside of a gun store and psychologically evaluates them and then holds them for a couple of days and then sets up appointments to check their mental health status.
is
Which to be maybe I'm being uncharitable to Hunter here. I mean he hasn't really labeled out his solution to mental checks, but uh, you know, or maybe he did and I just didn't get that far into his live stream.
unfathomable and despicable in every conceivable fashion.
Okay, but why do mass shootings only happen in the U.S.? Well, because we have a much easier access to guns. Just in principle, just to be frank, mass killings don't only happen in the United States. They kind of happen everywhere, for better or for worse. If it's not mass shootings, it'd be mass stabbings. I mean, yeah, I mean, 3 people being stabbed is considered a mass stabbing. So that word may be a little bit more loaded. But I guess at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter if it was 1 person stabbed to death or 3. We'd still be asking the same question. What would possess someone to grab a switchblade and then stab people to death, on a train cart? It's kind of all the same. Well, I wouldn't say all the same. Again, I mean, the area of damage is greater, but the desire itself is what still needs to be analyzed and curtailed as much as it could be.
And
Why aren't security contractors jumping the season? That's a good question. I don't see security contractors. I guess from a business PR point of view, it would look mighty crass to be like, hey, these children are dead. Maybe you guys should hire more security. I don't know. I don't know if the optics are good to do stuff like that in any situation.
and before some chuckle fuck jumps up here and goes, "My Second Amendment," we already put restrictions on weapons. For example, you, God-fearing white gun owner,
I don't know what his bite is against white people and people who like God. Actually, when I said that out loud, I had to remember that he's a liberal atheist, so that's kind of the answer to that question. But this is kind of a non-point as well. Just because we restrict an individual's ability to purchase a tank, and I'm exaggerating, obviously, but let's just go with what he's going to say. What he's going to say is we put restrictions on people's ability to get grenades, and I think rocket launchers. I don't know if he said rocket launchers specifically. He probably said bazooka specifically. But even though we don't allow those type of weapons to be purchased, I don't think a restriction on having those arms is a counterpoint to an individual's ability to obtain a gun or firearms at all anyway. I mean, for one, you're not going to use a rocket launcher to go out and like hunt. It's very specifically a weapon used to kill large mass of people in an armed conflict. It's very specifically why you would have a grenade launcher, or a bazooka, or a tank. They're definitely weapons of war. And so a civilian population being filled with grenades and like rocket launchers is unreasonable, which is partly probably why the government's like, we probably shouldn't be selling that to civilians, because the purpose of having them is rather obvious and clear. Whereas with firearms, there's lots of different reasons. So now again, I mean, its main function is to kill something, certainly, but that doesn't mean that you're going to go shoot up a school. You could be going into the wilderness. You could be camping. You could be going to a shooting range. You could be practicing. You could be an instructor. There's lots of there's numerous different reasons why someone would purchase a gun that isn't, I'm going to go shoot up a mall. So, but there are very few reasons why someone would be like, yeah, I need a bunch of grenades, or yeah, I need a tank, yeah, I need a rocket launcher. There's a logic and reasonability to why there are restrictions to that. I mean, you could be real stupid and say, hey, how come I can't purchase a nuclear warhead? Like, the government doesn't let me buy nuclear. What? What? It's like, come on, like that's not a good counter argument for why we need restrictions on guns. Like, there are restrictions on other different, more deadlier weapons. Well, they have a much more, you would say, direct and specific function to kill people, whereas guns and other type of guns, firearms in general, they just don't. There's a lot more versatility to them. I mean, people want arms because they're cool. not because they're hunting. I mean, yeah, there are some people that are just collectors and they just like going to a shooting range. Um, goes. The guy in Colorado has missiles. You can purchase missiles. Maybe I'm just ignorant there, but I could understand exactly. Here's the thing: if you can get the appropriate license to purchase missiles, I mean, sure. I didn't know that was possible, but I could understand why the U.S. government would restrict an individual's ability to purchase missiles. I don't know. I don't know if I need to be a super genius to think critically about like why that would be restricted, but a firearm wouldn't.
Cannot go purchase a grenade launcher. You can't run around.
Okay. Oh, wait. OKTO Tyrone. I'm just gonna call you Tyrone, my man. So if there are crazy people all over the world, why do we mostly hear about this sort of thing happening in America? Well, for one, you have to be, I guess, a bit of a conspiracy theorist to a degree. The type of news that you hear that becomes mainstream is specifically selected. For example, most of the people that are shot and killed by black people are other black people. But you don't really hear those type of stories circulate in the news very often, do you? Instead, you usually hear about cops that end up shooting black people. That hits the media circus because there's an agenda that they're trying to put forth. Like these people are selecting news, honestly, again, conspiracy theory to a degree, to control your mind. The biggest threat that a lot of black people face are thugs and gangsters in their communities that are selling them drugs. But you don't see too many liberal TikTokers talking about that. They're talking about white supremacy, and they're talking about how the white man curtails the black man's ability to get into more profitable economic situations. And that might be true to some degree. There might be a conversation there to be had. However, you're going to find that we're going to be talking more about systemic racism than we're going to be talking about the fact that gangsters and thugs will run their communities into the ground and don't allow for the people that don't want to be gangsters and thugs to have their own businesses and be able to have their own, I guess you could say, networks and communities where they more, I guess, authentically try to have an economy in an area. And we could talk about why some black people do X, Y, and Z more often than other things. That's an interesting conversation. But the point being is that, knowledge or news stories are specifically selected for an agenda. So so you're not going to get all the facts about the world from the news, especially depending on which news station you go to, because they want you. It is in a sense, and I know this sounds, it is mind control in a sense. They are trying to control your perspective on things. So they want you, dear viewer, to look at guns and think that they're the worst thing ever, and they need to be restricted, if not taken away. Because that's the narrative that they want to put. So they're going to show you all the gun violence and stuff. They're not going to show you the stabbings. They're not going to show you the muggings. They're not going to show you all that different stuff because that's not the narrative. That's not what they want you to think and feel. They don't want that type of fear inside of you. That's why. You got to remember, the news stations are controlled by people that have a bias in. They have a different agenda or script they want you to adhere to. Yeah, cops are paid to protect you. I mean, cops are people too. Cops have no obligation to protect you. I mean, technically they don't, but some cops. I mean, cops are people too. So you got to remember that. Not all cops are equal, but I do think that the institution of police forcing probably should be, I hesitate to use this word. I was going to say militarized, but that's not correct. Militarized in the sense of their obligation to civilians. Not militarized as in like you would say the specific type of like training and access to like weapons and stuff, but like there should be a different type of training and like mindset that a police officer is not to. You're not upholding the law because it's the law. You're upholding the law to keep these citizens safe. And so there should be an obligation for police officers with their training to work towards the protection of people, excuse me, for as much as they can. If you want my random thoughts on how you would reform the police force, at least. Briefly, at least.
With a bazooka, because there are some
Yes, he said
restrictions
bazooka.
on weaponry. You can have your Second Amendment all day, every day, but that doesn't mean the Second Amendment allows guns for everyone and anyone whenever they want them, regardless of their age or their mental well-being.
And yeah, I don't think anyone would argue that, though. I don't think any God-fearing white man would argue that anyone of any age should be able to purchase a firearm. However, the access probably shouldn't be restricted because a few people are mentally deranged and wish to hurt people is the argument. The government shouldn't be focusing on trying to curtail access from people who aren't going to do that, when we as a collective unit in society, which would make more sense, it would make more sense that parents have a more invested interest in their children than it would be the government restricts our ability to own weapons. Maybe parents should talk to their children more. Maybe there should be more community outreaches and more community outlets for these lonely people, or we should, so that there's more avenues of help for them. Maybe, again, if people had more of an incentive to keep their environment safe, as in they had that families and friends and people they cared about, they're going to be less likely to get to a point where they want to go shoot individuals anywhere, let alone an elementary school. To me, it would be far more easier to implement a more societal responsibility to your fellow man than it would be to implement bureaucracy and regulating different type of guns, firearms, and mental health checks and background checks and stuff. Maybe I'm wrong, though. Yeah.
So he would be very rude and threatening towards some girls at his school. There would be videos of him at the park trying to fight people with boxing gloves. He would literally carry boxing gloves with him. And he was angry that he didn't graduate. He got into an argument with his grandmother, and then he shot her. And she was screaming, "He shot me, he shot me," the neighbor recounted to Newsy. I am not currently aware if the grandmother was killed or if she was just shot.
Someone asked for a mod. I don't have any mods. Yeah, I'm getting the troll out of here. Whenever I see those comments, I'm getting them out of here. I guess I should appoint a moderator, but I don't live stream enough, and I don't have anyone consistent enough I would consider a mod. Maybe I'll work on that in the future, definitely. I'll probably try to live stream more often as well anyway, now that I got this new spiffy microphone.
There was a former friend who said that they were close with Ramos until his behavior started to, quote, deteriorate. He said Ramos, who was often bullied over a speech impediment that included a stutter and a lisp, once cut up his own face with a knife just for fun. I mean,
Well, that clearly wasn't just for fun. My point in saying that was, anyone that would cut up their own face and then say just for fun needs some help. Yeah, there were signs. Yeah, long before we get to the point where he's shooting up a bunch of people. I mean, yeah. But yeah. This, to me, again, there's too many times where the psychological profile of these people is just too consistent. It's too consistent to see lonely individual who's self-mutilating, who has no friends and no family, goes on a killing spree. Like, how many times do we have to hear this over and over again before we say, all right, maybe we need to stop socially ostracizing people. Maybe we need, again, if bureaucracy was more, all right, let's find a way to incentivize more mental health advocates. Let's get more psychiatrists, more therapists, more people who are going to come and try to help individuals with trauma. Let's find more ways to appoint these into high schools Let's get more funding into these areas to help curtail this bad behavior long before. That seems far more reasonable to me because, and the reason why I think that's far more reasonable is not simply to stop the crazy shooter, but you would be helping lots of different people who are suicidal, lots of different people that are depressed, lots of different people with all different types of trauma that they're dealing with. You would just be helping them. If there's a more of a push, okay, let's try to get more individuals that want to go to these areas and help protect individuals. And this is kind of one of the things that I think is really important when you know, I think going back earlier to the conversation about why do we hear these news stories more than we see grants or more than we see scholarships for mental health advocates or scholarships for people that want to be psychiatrists or therapists and stuff. Well, because the narrative isn't about trying to help or protect people. It's about control and trying to restrict individuals' access to guns. And I think Hunter is just a useful idiot to that degree. Conspiracy theory or not, again, far more solutions to this issue than he shouldn't be able to get guns. Yeah, I think it's obvious that this individual who would cut up his own face shouldn't be able to get guns. But how are you going to regulate that? How are you going to get to that point? How's a cashier at a gun store supposed to know that's what his plans are? He's not. But if you have a therapist at the school who, you know, they make announcements and say, "Yo, if you need help, we're here for you." Okay, now he's got an outlet. And he might, and here's the thing, he might still refuse the therapist. He might still refuse to help. He might. Or maybe his friends, now that we have a community of people who are like, "Yo, man, you need some help. You're over here hurting your face. You need to go talk to somebody." If we have more of that, maybe that's what's going to stop this issue and stop the same story from happening over and over again. Then you can't walk into a gun store and buy guns. Because again, all that's going to happen is he's just gonna buy a pocket knife from the gas station, and there you go.
I don't want to make a joke here because this is such a heavy topic, but like, holy shit, this dude went full Joker mode. He took a knife, cut up his own face for fun. These are some red flags going off in my book, okay? This is the kind of guy that I'm thinking, I don't know if I want this person running around with a deadly weapon.
No shit.
I'm
no shit.
Pretty sure I don't want this person running around with 2 deadly weapons.
I think one is.
Another friend said that he used to egg people's vehicles and shoot random strangers with a BB gun from a car. This kid had a serious violent streak and also appears to be significantly mentally unstable.
Yeah, that no one did anything about. I think again, we've spent a really long time. What's the word I'm looking for? Pushing people to kind of get along, to move along, and get people to kind of mind their own business rather than, again, forcing social cohesion. I think that might be one of the negative ramifications that kind of came with urbanization, which I guess is just a bigger word for moving people into cities and kind of separating them. Didn't create like a social obligation to help people and stop this nonsense. Because honestly, if this kid's over here shooting at BBs at cars, someone should have gone to his parents' house and says, "Yo, your son's doing this stuff. We need to get this straightened out." But instead, people are like, "Ugh, delinquent, moved on." If more people were in stronger, tighter community, I mean, tighter, definitely. I mean, they don't have to be small, but definitely tighter. If there's more social obligation between us to when we see individuals doing this stuff here, that we stand up and we move and we act and say, "Yo, chill out, fam." Like, or someone reaches out and say, like, what are you doing, kid? You know, it's gonna go a lot farther. And here's the funny thing, right? We're I'm being an armchair psychologist here, or I'm activating my Sharingan here and saying if someone would have stopped him long before or reached out to him long before we got to this point, maybe things would be different. But it probably would be different if, again, someone went to his parents' house and someone sat him down and talked to him when he was younger Then we wait till now that he's an adult and he's getting these weapons, and no one did anything to stop him long before.
First, he shot his grandmother on Tuesday morning. He then crashed his car near Robb Elementary School. Police pursued him as he ran into the school wearing a tactical-style vest. As soon as he made entry into the school, he started shooting children, teachers, whoever was in his way. He was shooting everybody. So this guy didn't even go to this school.
Well, no fucking shit. It was an elementary school.
He was mad that he wasn't going to graduate at his high school and went and shot up an elementary school. I mean, goddamn. Hours before the shooting, an Instagram account that appears to belong to Ramos sent direct messages to a teenager in Los Angeles telling her he wanted to share a little secret, according to screenshots. A TikTok account with the same handle and profile picture, also taken offline on Tuesday, featured only a clip of a mobile game and the line, "Kids be scared in real life." This is just sickening and terrifying in every conceivable way. Texas senator said he'd been briefed by state police that Ramos, who turned 18 on May 16, legally purchased 2 assault rifles. So a lot of warning signs before this tragedy took place. A lot of indications that this person is insane, deranged, psycho, and should certainly not have 2 deadly weapons.
No shit.
Certainly, he shouldn't have been able to legally purchase 2 deadly weapons.
Just in case you guys didn't catch that, these weapons were deadly, and he bought 2 of them.
That he then used to kill 19 elementary-aged kids. Like, are you fucking kidding me? This is the worst school shooting since Sandy Hook. Now, there is further outrage as well because 1 year before this school shooting took place, Texas expanded, quote-unquote, gun rights.
That's the problem. You guys see what I'm saying here, right? Like here, hold on. Let me see if I can just scroll back just a little bit. Because I want you guys to follow what he's saying.
Psycho, and should certainly not have 2 deadly weapons. Certainly, he shouldn't have been able to legally purchase 2 deadly weapons that he then used to kill 19 elementary-aged kids. Like, are you fucking kidding me? This is the worst school shooting since Sandy Hook. Now, there is further outrage as well because 1 year before this school shooting took place, Texas expanded, quote-unquote, gun rights.
So, again, like I said, this whole preamble, I guess I probably can't call it a preamble. I mean, he's just, talking about the facts. But all of this here is leading us to what has to be his argument that we need tighter gun control laws or regulations to stop this stuff from occurring. Again, I think it's pretty obvious that this is the conclusion he's trying to reach by the statement that Texas, a year before this happened, expanded these rights or expanded this access. Okay. Again, I don't think that this is technically incorrect logic. That again, the less firearms you have, the less people will be killed by firearms. But it's more plucking the weed than it is pulling the root. This isn't Texas's fault. And so again, we're trying to attack bureaucracy. We're trying to attack the lawmakers here. Rather than we need to be attacking where the flip were his parents. Why did he live with his grandma? Why did he not have any friends? Why didn't he play sports? Maybe he just wasn't interested. Okay, well, why didn't he hang out with people? Why wasn't he around his peers? Why is he talking to some girl on the other side of the country rather than trying to talk to girls in his grade? Why is he not graduating? Why his grades suck? No one sat him down. No guidance counselor sat him down and said, "Yo, is something wrong? Yo, are you okay? What's going on?" I remember. I don't remember her job position. I think her name was Miss Dewberry, or maybe I'm just making that up. I know it started with a D, but I remember one time after my friend committed suicide, I was working in the office, and I was moving files around, and she caught me, and she just looked at me, and she just said, "Yo, are you okay?" And I just broke down. I just told her, "No, I'm not. I'm not doing well." And she said, "You were friends with that young man that killed himself, weren't you?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Dang." I was like, "How'd you know?" She said, "Well, we're having a a little group where some people that were close to him are talking. If you want, I can show you where it is. They're sitting down and they're discussing it." And she led me over there, and I went there, and it was some other teammates that I had kind of helped prepped a little bit for lacrosse. He played lacrosse, and we sat down and we kind of had a little I guess, for lack of a better term, pseudo grief counseling. My point in the story is the fact that this woman was so involved in the community of students. She not only knew me well enough to know that there was something off about me, but she led me to resources that could help me out quickly, just like that. Like, where are those type of people in the educational system whose job is to try to help students that need help? I mean, again, to me, long before we get to Texas expanded gun rights, so this is the problem. Where's the grief counseling in a school environment? Maybe we could expand that for students who can't afford it. Maybe we should make that more affordable. And maybe we could incentivize people to pursue college education to where they go out and they help individuals with their knowledge of psychology and therapy to help out young people. Maybe we could have that. Maybe we could have taxpayers pay for that. I don't know. Again, I don't know. I could be wrong here. Maybe you guys in the comment section, or you guys in the live stream will have better solutions than mine. But I certainly cannot come to the conclusion, at least not yet, that the problem is Texas expanded gun rights. I don't think that's the issue here. Because let's just look at this logically. For every one person that does this, which doesn't minimize the damage, by the way, but for every one person that goes and does a mass shooting, there's 20 million. Actually, it's probably closer to say there's 50, 75 million that don't. I mean, probably again, if you were to make yourself a pie chart of all the school shooters and mass killings, right? And you compare that to all the people who didn't do that, like you're not gonna a sliver of a come on, right? So clearly there's something going on that's leading people to this path that isn't normal. And restricting the masses' ability to get to guns just ain't a good solution. It just isn't reasonable. Especially again, when you could create more resources and you could create more jobs. You create more jobs that are, interestingly enough, very beneficial to these young people. Like who's gonna hear that the government's giving grants to help people pursue psychology and therapy, and they're going to create positions in schools where we have multiple different guidance counselors who have, different psychology degrees that can help these kids out. Like, who's going to hear that or read that article, liberal, conservative, nonpartisan, and be like, that's a real stupid use of money. Our tax dollars are going into funding the education of therapists that are going to help students. God, good God. What is America coming to? Giving grants to students, college students that want to pursue education to help individuals. No, but like, who's gonna do that? There might be some person. I don't know. I haven't met him yet.
And one of these rights, quote unquote, that was expanded, one of the laws passed last year authorizes so-called constitutional carry, which means law-abiding Texans, 21 or older, no longer need a license to carry a handgun in public. Not even a fucking license? Doesn't the Second Amendment say a well-regulated militia?
Well, hold on. See, this bothers me because I see this brought up very consistently. Let's go read the Second Amendment. Right. The Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Well, there you go. See, while I guess you could say, I don't know if I want to call this the subject, we can see the subject may have been a well-regulated militia. Its purpose may be for the security of a free state. We can see in the predicate, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So even if the purpose of including this right, or recognizing it, which would be more accurate to say, because a right cannot be taken away by the government, it can only be recognized. We can see, as the statement is written, no matter what the purpose was, or why they wanted to highlight it, a well-regulated militia, it is the right of the people to keep and bear arms. Which I guess might be a little bit semantic, or it might be me thinking too hard, but it seems really clear to me, based on the way this was written as a sentence, that what was important is the right itself, not its purpose. Which again, doesn't really mean anything. It technically doesn't mean anything. Which is why I can't stand when people say, "Aren't you supposed to be in a militia?" It doesn't matter if it was for a well-regulated militia or not. The long and short of it is, this right's not going to be infringed by the government because it is necessary to secure the state being free from the tyranny of any government or any overall power. And if not the government, at the very least from any type of foreign threat. I mean, again, like if this was Red Dawn, this is Red Dawn, and the Koreans came. If we don't have any weaponry to protect ourselves, I mean, look, okay, fine, fair enough. They'll probably get shot out the sky long before they hit American soil. But let's just say it's Red Dawn, and we can't pull out our guns and our rifles to defend ourselves from these people. We just got served up on a silver platter. So again, sure, is that going to happen? Probably not. But I don't really think that's the point. I at least for me, that's definitely not the point. The point is, the government cannot take away our right to have weaponry. They can't. Can't be infringed upon. That's the game, set, match. Doesn't matter. Now, if you think that we should, that Texas probably shouldn't make it so that you can just walk around without a license for a gun, I mean, fair argument, okay. We can discuss that. However, to bring up whether or not you need to be in a militia for this to activate as a right is irrelevant. A right exists independent of what the government can't. Like, the government can't take it away from you. That's what makes it a right. That's what makes it inalienable.
Not even a fucking license to carry a handgun in public. This is Wild West. This is the Wild West right here, guys.
Oh my jeez. This is some Vouch level nonsense. Vouch has trained you well. This is the wild.
It's all in the name of my gun rights.
Yes. People are blaming anything but the shooter. Yeah, Lloyd. Yeah, Lloyd. For me, like I said, fam, the ultimate battle is good versus evil. I'm sorry, it's cartoonish to say, but this young man was brought to evil, and to me, the question is, how do we get to this point? Could we have? And you want to know something, dear viewers? Maybe there's literally nothing anyone could do to stop this ever. I don't know, but I can certainly tell you at least this: restricting guns is not the solution. I can tell you that. I can tell you that because you're going to be opening up more problems than you are going to be solving the problems if you restrict our ability to get firearms. You just are. Imagine if the Ukrainian people didn't have any firearms and Russia invade. Think, people, think. Let's run that one back once again. What if Ukrainians didn't have access to their firearms when they were invaded by Russia? So you gotta think. You gotta be for me. You gotta be a little bit more critical. You gotta think a little bit harder than the solution to mass shootings is no more guns. Because the solutions to less car crashes is no more cars. And the solution to less plane crashes is no more planes. And the solutions to less drowning is no more people get to swim. I mean, we could do that. Or maybe we can train people better on how to swim, train them better on the dangers of swimming. Maybe we should train more people to be better drivers. Maybe driver license tests are crap. And road rules are not enforced accurately. Maybe there's something better long before we get to, okay, no more. No more. Done. Can't have it. It's silly to me.
Another new law made Texas a Second Amendment sanctuary state against new federal gun control regulations. Other laws made it legal for hotel guests to store firearms in their rooms and allowed gun owners to carry firearms in their holsters of choice.
That's fair. I'm going to read some of these. I've been reading what some of you guys are saying. I'm sorry I haven't been responding to you too much. I think I might be a bad streaming host there. While standing personally. Turns out every time I open carry, not a single thing happens. Wonder why. I'll tell you what, fam. I'm not really too bothered by people opening and carrying. Yeah, I got rid of the bot. I got him. I got it. I'm the moderator around these parts. But yeah, I remember one time I was at work and I'm not going to tell you what my job is specifically, but I work in people's houses, and the guy was more or less a military detective. For this is the best I can describe his occupation, and he was paranoid, and he told me straight up he was paranoid, and the reason why was from his own words. You know, I talked to him a little bit, and he said, I've seen the worst of what people can do. I know people can be evil. And he made it clear that his firearm was very visible at all times. He had his gun at his hip and followed me everywhere. Now I wasn't bothered. And the reason why I wasn't bothered was because this guy is a detective who's trying to solve murders and bad things. Now, maybe I'm real gullible, but I have a little bit of trust for individuals whose entire occupation is putting away bad people. So I'm not too bothered by the fact that he was walking around with his gun at his hip the whole time. But my point in telling that story is the fact that, you know, if you put weapons in the hands of people that are trustworthy and want to do what's right, you don't have much to worry about. And that guy also, he had a he actually he had, I think he had an AR-15 too that he kept locked up. Actually, he didn't keep it locked up. I think he had some type of rifle. It was cool. And he let me look at it. But again, like again, I know I know it's cartoonish, but The battle is between good and evil. If you put guns in the hands of people that want to do good, and you put hands in the guns of people that are responsible and have an invested interest in your society, you probably shouldn't be worried if they're carrying them out in the open. In the same way a knight walked around with his sword by his hip, he was trained to protect civilians. He had a code of chivalry. We knew what his purpose and function was. No one's going to be sitting here like, we need to get rid of all the swords so there's no more duels in the streets. A much different age, I would say. A much different age.
So this is why Texas has come under increased scrutiny. Because you no longer even need a fucking license to carry.
He goes, I love when people open carry. However, I won't do it. I conceal carry. I don't want to be the first target if something goes down. I mean, I guess that could happen. You could be the first target regardless because you're tall. No, I'm kidding. No, that's a fair stance to take. We need to ban deers wearing Kevlar vests. Sorry, I was reading
A handgun.
Will this stream be uploaded? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I hope it is. I don't. I never make any stream to not be uploaded. I'm totally fine with them being uploaded.
You can have a handgun so long as you're over the age of 21, walking around your local Walmart.
Well, again, like if you're 21, we can hope to this point you're a little bit more mature. We can hope at least that you kind of understand the responsibility of this weapon. We can hope, which I'm certain is what Texans are trying to do. Also, again, if you all are walking around, you guys all are armed, it is certainly quite the, I would say, disincentive to open fire and start a fight there. I think being a wise, evil villain, I don't know if I would want to go to Texas and just start opening fire in Walmart when I know everyone's packing. I think the reason why our young man, the dead Texas shooter ran into a school was because he knew that they weren't going to have weapons. Which again, I don't know if the solution again is to say the teacher should be strapped, but there is definitely a disincentivization when you know that there's a lot of different firearms in the area to do something. Like absolutely. You'd have to be brain dead to not think critically. If not critically, just react accordingly, when you know everyone has a gun.
In Texas, spinning that little sucker around, yeehaw, without a license. No license needed, because my Constitution and my Second Amendment. This is disgusting. It's despicable. And the fact that now over 15 children have been murdered brutally for doing nothing but living their lives is not only heartbreaking, but it is just, it's unfathomable and it is unacceptable for our country. We're supposed to be the greatest country in the world. The fact that Republicans...
The police had to wait outside the school? Maybe they were they like waiting for the SWAT team or something?
Want to now force more children into the world by restricting abortion?
You see, this is what I mean by talking from both sides of your mouth here. Now,
while more children. The fact that Republicans want to now force more children into the world by restricting abortion, while simultaneously refusing to take action in regards to making sure those children that they forced to be born aren't getting shot while going to school?
Well, I mean, they made sure that those kids weren't pulled out of their mother's wombs via suction or via a needle vacuum, or weren't forcibly ejected by the usage of a pill that causes a mighty violent period to happen. I but so what's really interesting for you guys who have been here since the stream started. I kind of opened up by talking about how a lot of liberals talk from both sides of their mouths. And I didn't even make it this far into the video when I started the live stream. So you can just see my Sharingan just seems to be always activated. But it is really interesting to me that again we're looking at abortion somehow is or rather removing abortion is bad because you're forcing more children to live, but killing those children is still bad if it's done by a gun. It's like maybe killing children is bad. Maybe it's wrong to kill children just in general. Like I don't know. Like I don't think the sanctioned, legal killing of a child in the womb is a reasonable point to be raised when you're talking about children being shot and killed in a school. I don't know if that. I don't think that makes you look good. Yeah, you're still dealing with probablys. Oh wait, hold on. He's responding to someone. My bad.
Is disgusting. And right away, right when this took place, you had members of the GOP jumping up and screaming in their shrill little whiny voices about how, don't make this political. Why do you always have to politicize this? Because guns are a political issue.
Sure.
Because you restrict gun violence with policy.
Or maybe we have more mental health advocates, more therapists, more therapy, a much tighter, stronger community of people that are incentivized to help one another. Oh, that's just too much responsibility. Sorry, my bad. My bad. That would just require the populace of people to believe that we have an obligation to each other. Sorry, my bad. Let's just slap a law over it. That'll solve it. People being forced to be better for their fellow man? Nah, that's weak. That's weak shit.
That's politics, my dude. I know for you chuckle fucks, getting down on your knees and saying a prayer to your...
Why are you guys talking about the red pill here? Hold on. I think I missed something. I missed some context. Uno momento, por favor. Guns preserve our political foundations, though. Yeah, I mean, you're asking that question, but you are correct. See, he's responding to a comment really far up. I don't know who you're responding to. For those of y'all who are wondering, seen a couple of videos where even the fence sitter Tim Pool is starting to wake up about women in the red pill. It's definitely growing. Oh yeah, absolutely. I think there's no question about it. Yeah, it's definitely becoming a little bit more common. Which you can say thanks to Kevin Samuels, by the way. Is definitely thank you, Kevin Samuels, for that signal boost going on there. But yeah, it's definitely becoming a little bit more common. You can also say thank you to Wheat Waffles as well. But yeah, it's definitely becoming more common. Oh, you're okay. Yeah, you're responding to Hunter. Yeah, Hunter. Yeah. I think I'll probably keep the stream going for about 15 more minutes, and then I'll let you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Since this was a test stream anyway, I wasn't really trying to go for a long time. We'll listen to a little bit more, and then we'll bring it home.
Your imaginary sky daddy is A-okay. That's good enough for you people. But for some of us, we want to see an actual change take place, and you do that via... But for some of us, to your imaginary sky daddy is getting down on your knees and saying a prayer to your imaginary sky daddy is A-okay. That's down on your knees and saying a prayer to your imaginary sky daddy is A-okay. That's good enough for you people.
Where did that even come from? Where did it even come from? Here's another issue I kind of have with these different types of conversations, and this is why again I always preface by saying, listen, this is real cartoonish, but it has to be said. This is about good versus evil. Like we gotta stop with trying to make pejoratives and undermining people's, for arbitrary reasons. Mocking Christians for their imaginary, which is rather dated. I'm so sick of atheists with it. Like can we come on, move on, guys. Move on, guys. Come on, we get it. Sky Daddy, Zeus, Odin, we get it. But it's like argue the point, fam. Like we gotta move on from trying to undermine and undercut people and trying to make them look stupid, and just actually talk about and discuss the principle of these ideas. And granted, I mean, I've gotten on Hunter for his nonsense, certainly, but I'm not gonna sit here and say, you squiggly, scrawny little worm who look like you can't lift, a 20-pound dumbbell, talking to us about how we need to change and do things. But I could do that, but what's the point? Like I'm not really good. As you can see, I'm not good at doing that anyway. But it's like, what's the point of trying to polarize people and undermine this position? Like, you don't need to invoke the creator of the universe to logically conclude that restricting guns isn't going to stop crazy, lonely young men that have no incentive for their society to continue to go out and hurt people. It's not. It's just not. And saying that people have come to this conclusion because they're stupid Christians that are praying to an imaginary God that don't real is not a good take. You're not going to convince anyone that your position is reasonable because you just undermine and mock Christians' intelligence. It's just not helpful. It's just not going to do anything for you. And one of the biggest problems that I have with YouTube, unfortunately, is the fact that there's too much polarization. There's too much. I'm making this for my audience, and you guys are I'm just here to tell you what you want to hear. Well, no, I can't just tell you niggas what you want to hear. You guys gotta hear what's real, and what's real is I'm not even coming at this from the position of like a conservative. I'm not a conservative or anything like that. Again, for me, my concern is good versus evil. I go beyond conservative. No, it's doing what's wrong versus doing what's right. So what's wrong is punishing the masses for what one or a few people have done. It's not rational to ban guns from this point of view. It doesn't make sense. That's the cold logic of it. Especially when we have far more solutions long before we get to no more guns. Okay? Which what I'm saying is, one, we go to the root, to the family unit. Having fathers being in the lives of their children, just off rip. Just start there. Already would have helped this a long time ago. Off rip. His mother and his life. Long before we got here, 18 years ago, if his family was together, if they thought about their relationships and they worked hard for each other, long before we get here. Excuse me, already avoided. Already avoided. But say we have his father died, or say we have his mother died, say we have something happen, he gets separated from them. We have an educational system that invests in the students, an educational system that has resources for students that need this, students who are in the foster care system, who have people that they can talk to, who have solutions for them, that has different ways to help them. Long before we get to no more guns, long before we get to this is Texas's fault, because you can open and carry a gun. That's not the problem. The problem isn't you can open and carry without a license. The problem is someone wants to kill people. So what got him to that point to where he wants to kill people? And you're not going to solve, again, you're not going to solve that with bureaucracy. You're not going to solve that with politics. You're going to solve that with social cohesion and an investment in your society. Do you know why most people don't go out and just rob and steal? because they have families to take care. They have something that tethers them to their society. My family. I want my family, or I want my friends to have a good life. So I have to work to make sure that their life is good. Someone gave me a super chat. These shootings are likely false flags to make people want to give up their guns. Probably. I mean, I don't know if the shootings are false, so to say, but you can definitely, the media coverage is definitely crafted, which I said earlier in the stream, definitely selected for a narrative to get you guys to a position, or to say you guys, like viewers, get the sheep at the very least into this position that Hunter's trying to push us into, that gun regulation is what is required, which is just silly. It's just silly.
But for some of us, we want to see an actual change take place, and you do that via legislation and policy, and that is intrinsically political. That is a political issue. So anybody that starts whining about politicizing this issue is being dishonest. If it involves guns, if it involves death, and if we are already recognizing that laws are supposed to be encoded morality, we're supposed to be coding morality with laws, although far from perfect, then we are going to have a political conversation if something this heinous and immoral takes place involving guns, which is a political issue. I don't understand how this is so complicated for the GOP, probably because they realize that they're the ones who consistently try to reduce any form of restrictions on guns, who are paid the big bucks from the NRA, and so they kind of have to go back and give off their little talking points. Why are you making this political? Because it's a political issue, you fucking degenerate. That's
I don't know. Why are we talking about assassins in the chat? Why would I outsource murder to someone? Yeah, like why would we have a? I'm confused. Okay, do once and for all experiment. We ban gun 10-year automatic urban at the end. We can stop debating it. I'd rather not do that social experiment.
That's why. Now, for a little while, I was sort of wishy-washy on the gun control issue, but this event caused me to do a little bit more digging into this, into the gun restrictions. Do they work? Do they not? You've heard people say that, well, more people having guns will actually reduce gun violence. That's probably true. I don't think it's either or. If you are a responsible individual and you have a gun, I don't think that gun is going to grow legs and go shoot people. The problem is right now is that we have people who are not responsible, and we have very little ways, it seems, to determine if these people are responsible, that are then able to access guns. So, not only do you have the GOP bitching about the making it political, you also have some of these cunts whining about, well, this is a mental health problem.
Oh, finally. Maybe it's my bad. I mean, we are only 15 minutes in, and we've been here for like an hour and 45 minutes.
Specifically Marjorie Taylor Greene. We'll go over some of the responses in a bit. But I'm really sick of acting like this mental health.
Oh, okay. I was about to say I was about to be so upset if he just hopscotched right over that point.
Problem and gun issue. I'm really sick of acting like the mental health crisis and the gun violence crisis is somehow a dichotomy.
Well, that's the. kind of the point. It's not. It's kind of the whole point. It's not. It's not a dichotomy. One leads to the other, or rather, maybe I'm misinterpreting him. Maybe what he's saying. Let's see what he's saying.
It is not a dichotomy. You can address both. So, for example, mentally ill people who are unstable to the degree of carrying out a violent attack on an elementary school shouldn't be able to access the guns. There you have a mental health problem that coincides with the gun problem.
So, using these premises where people have an easier access to guns and firearms, and people that have mental health issues probably shouldn't be able to have access to them, you would logically conclude that what you actually would need to restrict is access to mentally deranged people or mentally ill people, rather than restrict the access in general. And that'd be the case. I mean, that'd be far more target focused and, dare I would say, ableist. No, I'm kidding. Shouts out to my favorite incel. Who are you referring to? Hunter? Hunter's married. Also, why would you be shouting out to Hunter? I'm a little confused on to that one. Yeah, I don't know what incel you're referring to, though. But, what's up? Nice to see you here, eh? For example, all left should be punished since Epstein was a leftist.
This is a multifaceted issue. And when people present this as if it's a dichotomy, in a way, whether they're doing it intentionally or not, it's kind of a red herring. Now, instead of talking about the solution, we're arguing over whether or not it's a mental health problem or a gun problem.
Well, I think people are dumb if that's the case. Again, it's a battle between what's good and what's evil. But I don't even see most people do that, really. I kind of see most people only talking about gun control in general. Access to gun control, or access to guns versus restricting that access, is typically what I see the conversation always devolve into. In fact, if the conversation was mostly kind of revolving around the mental health crises of young males who don't have outlets and don't have a lot of help, and people taking it seriously, I would certainly believe we'd see a lot of this curtailed, like by a huge degree. Which, even then, by that being said, honestly, what we have here is the emotional outburst of a male that had no real plan and no real structure. He's just raging against the machine. You know, a lot of the times when you see these mass shootings, you know, most of these dudes, some of them may from time to time have a manifesto, but a lot of the time it's very like ill planned. It's just a gigantic outburst. Which isn't to minimize it. It's just to call it what it is. You know, it's not. Most of these guys, they aren't really here because they were like the Riddler from the recent Batman movie that were trying to take down corruption and change the system or something like that. It's an individual that clearly had a whole bunch of different mental health issues and problems that was really messing them up. And so, I don't think it's not a dichotomy between gun rights and mental health. It's finding some type of solution to this issue, because again, people that don't have mental health issues aren't going around shooting up schools. So it's just illogical to jump to the conclusion that the problem is Texas expanding gun rights to responsible people. That's ridiculous. If the people are being responsible and Texas expanded them, then what difference does it make? They're not the ones doing this. That's entirely, first of all, which I think is a really strong point that I probably neglected to bring up. But if Texas expanded these gun rights and none of those people that are opening carrying did this action, but someone who never took advantage of that law did, then what are we complaining about the Texas gun rights for? That had nothing to do with what happened. It literally had nothing to do with what happened. So again, you know, this is why again, we can't look at bureaucracy here. We can't look at legislation here. Legislation had nothing to do with this. The gun rights that Hunter read in that article did not touch this problem. It did not touch this scenario. So, right?
It's both. If you are mentally unwell, you shouldn't be able to have access to a firearm. If you are mentally unwell, you shouldn't be able to access something that allows you to carry out your deep unwellness on the rest of society.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would disagree with that. I think the problem is how would you implement those checks in any efficient way that is definitely absolutely consistent. It would be really hard. It's really I mean you might have to make just like an entire industry just on that front alone because it'd be really really difficult to be able to mentally check out for all those people.
This is so easy to grasp.
Well, this is kind of my problem here. If it is indeed so easy to grasp, why are we talking about Texas gun laws then or gun rights then? If your premise or if your argument is that mentally unwell people shouldn't have access to firearms, who the flip would disagree? I don't think anyone disagrees with that at all. But the problem is every single thing that you've brought up, Hunter, does not work to that conclusion. Like,
obviously. Now, furthermore, it's not a mental health crisis in the sense that, well, the individuals that go out and carry shootings, they just had some mental illness problems. Let's just, shed a tear and move on. There is a mental health crisis in America. And just to be clear, I suffer from mental illness myself. Okay.
oh no, I had no idea. I'm sorry. I probably should respect Hunter a little bit more.
I have depression and anxiety and OCD. All right. Name it in that regards. I probably have it. But just to be clear, I'm not saying if you are mentally unwell, like have depression, that you shouldn't be able to get a gun.
No, I don't know. Maybe you shouldn't. I'll be honest with you. It's like because if you are suffering from depression, and we do have a clear pipeline to suicidal thoughts, should you have access to a firearm to kill yourself if you're depressed? I mean, you are hurting someone, and that person is you. So, I think there's definitely a case to be made there. In fact, I mean, I would argue, do you think that this Texas shooter here wasn't depressed? Among other issues that were going on with him.
But if you're mentally unwell to the point of exhibiting signs of psychosis or a disregard for human well-being or lacking even basic empathy, you should not be able to access a gun. So we need to address the American mental health crisis, because that is just a fact that it's happening. Especially during COVID, you can see that the mental health issues have skyrocketed statistically. So this isn't just like a lone wolf who had a bad day and decided to carry out a shooting. We have a crisis here in America across the nation when it comes to mental health specifically. And again, as I've already said, we also have an issue with people who are mentally ill to the point of being fucking deranged having easy access to a firearm. I think, and I'm kind of pulling this out of my ass, we'd have to see how this would work, but I think that if you're going to purchase a gun, you should have to take some kind of a mental health evaluation. I think that if you are in therapy, for example, you should have a fucking therapy note. A note from your therapist that says you are cognitively fit to responsibly own a firearm.
And what if that changes the next day after you purchase the firearm? Now what? I mean, I think it sounds all well and good that you would want some kind of healthcare or mental health care professional to sign off on your ability to own a firearm. Sure, I mean, maybe in a perfect world, maybe, someone would be responsible enough to be going to therapy to begin with, but I would argue that if someone does have the self awareness to be going to therapy for the trauma and problems they have, they probably also aren't going to be going to a gun store for the usage of purchasing a gun. I don't know. Um, I don't know. I don't know if those would be the same two people.
And I think that if you don't have if you don't have a therapist, you should have to go through some kind of mental health evaluation. I'm not a policymaker. I don't exactly know what that would look like, but come on.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's the problem. Like it's like, well, there should be something there. Well, okay, fine. If there should be something there, maybe his parents should have had a more invested interest in his life and raising him to be a well-adjusted adult. I mean, I don't know. That would probably be, more useful long before we need a therapist to write off a note to make sure that you can carry a gun.
I know here in Maryland, if you have a marijuana card, you cannot purchase a gun. Now, I kind of think that's sort of lame because...
Huh? Now it's a problem?
Because I don't think that having marijuana means that you're not cognitive enough to own a weapon, but I see why that was done. And although I don't really totally agree with that version of it, I agree with the sentiment. And it's a good idea. If you are licensed to legally have medical cannabis, then you probably shouldn't be able to be licensed to have a weapon. Maybe you're going to get high as shit and go out on a killing spree. Marijuana doesn't really work like that, but again, the sentiment is there. There is a possibility we can do something to ensure that mentally ill sickos aren't getting their hands on deadly weapons to then go and murder innocent children. I mean, just look at these pictures that are coming up on my screen right now. These are teachers. These are parents. These are families that are torn apart because some sicko was able to access a gun. Because this dipshit, this deranged subhuman filth who is lower than dirt, was able to go and purchase 2 AR-15s on his 18-year-old birthday.
I'm pausing just to make sure that you guys understand that he was able to purchase weapons. In case Hunter didn't make it clear enough for you guys, I'm here to help him out. This guy was able to buy not 1, but 2 guns.
How would policy change make any significant effect due to the fact that most homicides are committed with illegally obtained firearms?
That's actually a really good question. Now, I don't know how factually true that is. That might be factually true. By the way, he's responding to, I don't know if you guys can see well, you can see it, but I don't know if you were reading it. But he's responding to a question that someone in his chat asked him, which I do think is an interesting question. So I'm going to see his answer here, and then I'm gonna close this out. We've been here for like 2 hours now.
Is that true? I thought it was legally. I could be wrong. There are various different ways, but the first thing that needs to start is making sure that you're not legally purchasing a weapon while also having severe psychosis or a mental health condition to the point of making you incapable of responding.
Oh, okay. Well, so he just kind of reiterated the point he already made. So, I mean, honestly, I don't know how true that is either. So I also probably wouldn't be able to answer that question very well. But if most gun violence is carried out by people that were able to legally get the firearm, then again, bureaucracy does fuck all. It does absolutely nothing. Javid, false flag like Sandy Hook and Aurora. Like I said, man, maybe you're super chatting to tell us it's a false flag. Maybe. I don't know. I don't really think it is. I'll tell you the reason why. The psychological profile of our shooter here works like clockwork. We are constantly getting the same type of people doing the same thing. You would think that the social engineers who's writing the script would get bored of writing lonely, depressed male that has no friends and was raised without his parents goes on a killing spree. You would think, we would have gotten that sequel. We'd be done with this. This remake, this Hollywood remake we keep getting, this reboot, if you will. But that's why I don't think so. I don't agree. I don't think it was a false flag at all. But I don't know everything. Could be. I just absolutely disagree. I don't think it is. As far about Hunter, I guess we'll end this stream here. By the way, Katarina, thank you. I appreciate that. I hope you have a good day too. Actually, I hope all you guys have a good day. And thanks for sliding here again. Looking at my my test stream. Probably gonna be coming on live more often. Definitely, absolutely. Especially now that I got this new microphone and I got a little bit more experience on how to set this stuff up. My final thought here is just going to be a reiteration of my own points as well. I think when it comes down to it, we're not going to solve this problem with bureaucracy. We got to solve this problem with community. And I know it sounds fluffy and idealistic and blah blah blah, but it's definitely far more reasonable that people work with each other and their communities than it is logical to restrict access to guns and firearms. To me, it does not make sense to restrict people's ability to get guns and weapons when the vast majority of people don't do this. It's not rational. It's just not. More people die from car crashes every day. We still drive cars. Yeah, I mean, it's not rational. It's not logical. We need to start taking young men's mental health a lot more seriously. We have to do more to help these young men out, because if we don't, what you're just gonna find is more of the same. And you would think that people would get tired of this stuff, honestly. You would think that people would finally get to a point where, like, all right, we keep saying the same story over and over again. You know? I'm not saying that people have to always be a superhero and reach out to that lonely kid in the back of the classroom. But maybe you can sit and eat lunch with them one day. Maybe we need more parents to go to a kid's house and talk and say, yo, you need to discipline this guy. What he's doing is not right. And no, that's lame. That's not cool. Sure, maybe so. But it's probably also not cool that he went and gunned down a bunch of kids in a school either. You know, we got to reach out and help each other more often than we do. There's too much move along to get along in society. There's too much live and let live. We got to work together because that's the only way our society functions. And we have to give young men a reason to want society to continue to function. Because even though we see, the crazy outbursts of these guys, we're having too many young men that don't want society to keep going. I keep seeing all these different doomer videos come up on YouTube. I keep getting comments on some of the videos where people, they just don't want to try and work anymore. They just want to try to keep this going. The worst thing you could possibly do for a society is to have its lifeblood, which is young men not want to have a world to live in. And I'm not saying you got to stroke every young dude's ego. People love to go to extremes, but you got to give them something. You got to give them some type of a reason to keep this stuff going, because otherwise you're just going to keep getting more of the same. And you would think that people would catch this lesson, that if you keep doing what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always got. If you keep on talking about gun control and we just got to gun control, you're never going to change the fact that there are people here that are in pain and they're hurting and they are becoming monsters. They are becoming terrible human beings. We got to pluck the weed from the root and stop people from getting there. So this way we don't have to gun them down after they start shooting a bunch of people. So again, to me, it makes far more sense to try to work towards that than gun restrictions. Because once again, the vast majority of people who are gun owners legally are not shooting up schools. So, that being said, man, I so hope you guys got something out today's live stream. Thank you again for tuning in and helping me